Hello, this is Emmanuel. This is week 16 final project. We're in today's week 18, last day. I've been working on this project for 3 weeks. I'm going to try to go as fast as I can with the amount of time. Might not go over through every single piece of code in here, but we'll try to show some of the main things that will cover what was requested, which was use of React router and at least 3 pages using React Bootstrap or alternative styling library contain at least 10 components, allow for all CRUD operations. So here is the components list. So you can see, I think I used more than 10. But here's app 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That book section, you can call that 11. Let's see, let's start with the app because I'm going to start from bottom to the top. So when I first started this, I started just with a nav bar, laying out the nav bar. I did have an idea. My idea was to make a app that was similar to thriftstorebooks.com with a scroll, kind of like Amazon. You can, the Prime Movie or Netflix, where you can scroll horizontal left to right. I did have a lot of tryouts through the project with the APIs, a lot of failures. I tried different APIs from like different library sources. Some that didn't have images, and because I wanted it to be visual like that way, the layout, kind of like thriftstorebooks.com. I had to find something that worked. I found finally the Google Book API, and that was kind of a challenge to. I did read through BAST, several libraries of how to work an API from a real API, and then Google took me a while. I had to read a lot of documentation, and I had to create some information to get a key. Um, so that being said, we're gonna go through this code real quick. Let me just close this up. Make this full. So the code here, import statements is a really important part of starting this. React is imported to the from the React library. You just define and create React components. So you do this. Use state and use effect imported from the React library. They are React hooks used for managing state and performing side effects respectively. Uh, this is the app page, so it's kind of one of the main pages. App browser router switch route link redirect link imported from the React router here. Uh, then in this one is where you find the nav bar. So import the statement includes the Bootstrap CSS styles that I needed. Then import the components used for building navigation bar. More components for nav bar. Uh, there are Bootstrap components used to building the navigation bar. So React Bootstrap container. This is obviously you have to install all the Bootstrap and I don't remember the whole list right now to cover over this quick video talk, but there was quite a bunch of installations done that were done throughout the period of test and trial. So this is the main things in the navbar: the home, the about, the read list, the review list. These are for the pages that I have on the navbar that you can go in through there, and then there you'll find all the different components that make this app, work and do what it's supposed to do, which is a book app. So I wanted to make it like a store, but ended up making it more like a review app of books with the API. You can browse through the API of Google and pull any book you want. Um, I did have some flaws throughout the coding because what I'll get to that when I get to this part. So this is the export. The app function component is the entry point of the application. States variables are declared using the use state hooked Selected books represents a list of selected books in the read list. The read list is a Boolean variable used to trigger direct to the read list search, represent the results of search operation. To add to the read list function is called when a book is added to the read list. It updates the selected state of by appending the new book of the existing list, logs a message to the console, sets a redirect to read list to true here. You see that redirect to true. Use hook is used to reset the redirect read list to false whenever it changes. Return statement renders the components and routes within the container component. Um, Return. So that's the return here. The router component sets up the routing system for the application. The navbar component from the Bootstrap is used to create the navigation bar. The switch component is used to render only the first. Route components that define the routes for different paths. So about, read list, and so on. If the read list is true, the user will be redirected to the read list path right here. Then we go into the read list. The imports React along with use state and use effect hooks from the React package. This section finds the read list component as the default exported, receives 3 props. It also initializes several states variables using the use state hook. Select the percentage currently selected book. Show mono indicates whether the book details mono is visible or not. And book details stores the details of the selected book. Right here, these. This function handlebook is called when a user clicks on the remove button associated with the book. It sends post request to the mock API, import to transfer the book to the read list. And on book delete prop is a function. It's called with the ISBN of the book to be deleted. And that's one place where I spent probably 2 days trying to figure it out because I would when I press the delete, the delete from the review, from the read list, it would delete, but it would delete from an interface app, but it doesn't delete um, in the API, the mock API, because I'm transferring all the data from the Google API into a mock API, and then from there, it also had a point where it was like overfeeding the API, and there's a limit of 100, and because I had like an eternal ongoing loop, so it would like keep feeding books as long as I kept scrolling down, and it would add them into that list, mock API, and then would run out, and then would start showing errors. Eventually, I fixed it, but that was quite really hard. So it still deletes. It still deletes in this part of the read list app. It deletes, and it goes into the API. But for some reason, instead of taking out the book that gets transferred from the home part to the read list, once I delete it, it adds it actually into the read list. So that's kind of something that I couldn't figure out. I did some research through. I did some research and I found a few articles where it says it has to be something with the ISBN, the number that you get from the API from Google. I guess the mock API creates its own somehow, and it just doesn't correlate. So, due to the timing that I had, I didn't have time to figure all that out or why or what. But the app does delete, and there's no errors that show in this section. You'll see it when you get to the app. So let's continue on. This functional handle home is called when a user clicks on to take me home button. It uses history hook from the React Router DOM to navigate the user to the home page. This handlebook is called when a user clicks on a book image. It sets the select book state variable to the click book. So there's another extra feature that I threw in there that I ended up not having the time to make it work. So it's in there. So when you are on the read list app, you can click on the image and it shows you the image. It shows you a place where you can enter some details. Let's show this as we're talking. Maybe it would help. So here is the book, the home page. You add them, and it goes um, to the read list. And here, if you see, let's see, console. Let's clear it out. Let's go home. So see here, there's no errors. As you see, there's no errors. No errors. And then it goes into here. But see, when I remove, it goes into the list instead of pulling out. And that's where I was talking about that. So that's that. So here, you could also enter some details and saves the details. But I did not have time to figure that. I added that extra button, and at the end, it wasn't really important for me to have. It was just a little extra that I threw in there, but I didn't have time to work the mechanics, or at least it's in there. I'm not sure if it's working or not. The function handle saves its details called when the user clicks the Save the Changes button. The button details modal. It updates the details of the selected books and input request to the mock API endpoint. The updated book object is sent to the request body. After the request is complete, the modal is closed by setting show modal false. I think this is where I was talking about. It deletes, but instead of deleting it out of the API, it puts it in there. So that was the only way I could get it to delete, because I tried and it wouldn't delete without doing that. How did I get to that point? I don't remember at this point because it's been a lot of coding in between. So let's go on to the. Um, so this is the home. I just created a few more. In this home here is there's a. This is part of the home, so I've created a different component to make more components, and I added the paragraph here. And at one point, I did have a. This is one of the first layouts, so here I had to put books in here, but I decided not to do that in there. Then here, this is the home. So this is the imports, and this is the find and function components. The components find function component name home, which takes on a book select prop as an argument. Declaring the state variables using the state hook. Use the state hook to declare and initialize. And then here I just go through this. So here I ended up having a tutor session. I ended up putting the Kini here because I had it open, which was fine, but and you can just type in there. But I think that was part of what was showing an error because it was just like eternally scrolling downward, and I couldn't figure it out. So that kind of stopped it a little bit. Search stores the current search query initialized with the valid Kini. Search stores array book with search results initial empty. Loading indicates whenever the data is currently being loaded, initially set to false. Page represents the current page number of search result, initially set to 1. Container ref object used to reference the container element in the DOM. Fetch initial results of retrieving from a local storage. Use effect is hooked. So I wanted that when you do these searches, that the images would stay, because in the beginning it was just an empty. It was just like an empty screen, and you just a little square, and you just put the search, no books, so it didn't look too appealing. So I wanted to, like I said, wanted the whole thrift store books look, or something like that. So then I added these to store the memory. Uh, Fetching search results on the page number, I had to set pages. So here I also had set to pages, but I ended up putting one because it, like I said, it was scrolling eternally. When you scroll down, it would keep adding more and more books. And then the thing is that the limit, I had a limit to the API, the mock API to 100 books, and it was like overloading and showing errors. So I ended up putting a limit to one page. Um, Setting up an intersection observer to handle infinite scrolling. When changed to pages, page one, I believe, is stopped. Yeah, that already said that. This use effects hook sets up the intersection observer that triggers the callback handle when the container element intersects with the viewport and increments the page state variable to fetch to the next page of results. The observer is disconnected when the component amounts. So some more fetching here. Fetching from the Google API. The fetch function is a synchronous function that performs the API request to fetch books from the Google API. It uses the search query and the page state variables to construct the API URL and fetches the data. It then processes the response and updates the search results state variable with the new books. So this is the API, Google API key. I tried doing the private one, but it gave me problems that I couldn't get the book, so it's kind of open. I don't know if it's safe. I think they were saying that it wasn't safe. I don't know what to do, but for now, I'll keep it up, and then maybe once I get through with this, then I'll figure it out. And once you guys review it, um, handle the search form submission. The handle search function is called when the user submits the search form. It prevents the default from submission behavior, resets the search results page and state variables, and calls fetchbook to perform a new search. Handle book selection. The handle book selection select function is called when the book is already selected. It invokes on the book select prop function, passing the select book as an argument. It also sends a post request to the release API to add the book. Rendering component. The component returns right here, return uh, to the UI from the page user interface. It uses imported Bootstrap components, structure and style. The layout includes search from a list book cards, a loading indicator, and a container element with a brief. So let's see. I made a footer, book section. Yeah, so this is just the host of the banner here. It's called book section because it was it was going to be the original book section, but it just became the banner for the about to hold it as a component. Here's a little bit of CCS that goes with the book section. The big book review. Um, so here is where the CRUD operation takes care, and I made sure that that worked with the CRUD, and I can show it. So this is where I put the CRUD operation. That's a big part of the project because I couldn't get it with the original. So I created this towards the end, separate and in a what do you call it? In a component, a separate component, and a different page because the original idea with the API and the Google was not panning out to do the CRUD operation, but this here does the CRUD operation. And here, import the footer component. The API stores the URL API input you use to fetch and update book reviews. Mm-hmm. This function component book review that will be exported as the default export uses use a hook to define multiple state variables, stores a rate of the book review, stores the value entered in the form inputs, stores the value entered into the form inputs, stores the ID, select the review for editing and deleting. So so editing and deleting, I think that's all part of CRUD. Um, so it creates, it reads and updates, and it deletes. So that's all in here. Use the hook is use fetch review in the component mounts. The fetch reviews function is an insync function that makes a get request to the API input using fetch. If the request is successful, it sets the review state variable to the received data. Um, Add review function is called when the form is submitted. It prevents the default from submission behavior using. It checks if the book title and review text are not empty or white space. So let's see. Here is this part here is truly indicating update operation. It makes put request to update the review with the specified ID. If selected is falsy, indicating add operation, it makes a post request to create a new review. After successful requested updates and corresponding review in the state, reset from fields and select the review ID. Display error messages handle error appropriately. Um, the delete review function is called when the delete button is clicked for a specific review. If it takes the review ID and as an argument and logs it into the console, it makes the delete request to the API import to remove the review with the specified ID. After a successful request, it updates the state of by filtering out the deleted review. Um, the edit review function is called when the edit button is clicked in a specific review. It takes a review ID as an argument. It finds the selected review from the review state using the review ID. If selected review is found, it sets the book title, review text, etc., and select the review, updating state variables accordingly. The cancel update function is called when the cancel button is clicked during the update operation. It resets the book file, review selected updated variables. The return pass the review ID. Add review function is passed to submit the handle order from the form submission. And let me just show it since we're there. Might as well. So here we are. Okay. So here we are with this here. And then there we go. So here is the book review. Let's make it a little bigger. So here is the book review. Let's get a book title. So let's get the Keening Teachings. Let's see. Let's get it out of this function. This one here. Okay, so let's go with the Keening Warm Breath. So here we go into the book review. We put our title of our book. And the review, let's just put a great book. Add. Refresh this. And here it goes. It created the it created into the API. Then we edit great book, and let's put some exclamation marks, update. It updates. So that updated, and it read it. So it created, it read, and updated. Now, to prove that it works, delete. Delete. See? This is the mock API on the right. So I think I'll conclude this because the video is quite long, and hopefully this will be everything that's needed for my final project. And you guys can play with it and see, and maybe see some of the errors that I couldn't figure out. Thank you. Have a great one.